Playing a sport and representing a country like India at the international stage is not an easy feat to achieve. It's even more tough to achieve corporate success while playing a competitive sport like rifle shooting that takes so much from you mentally. But Priyal Keni is someone who has been a star in the rifle shooting arena, winning medals and championships. She has even replicated that success at the corporate level. Currently, Priyal is pursuing her MBA from the London Business School. She's been a consultant. She is also a part of UN Women 30 for 2030, and she is also the founder of Play and Shine Foundation, an organization that is working to promote sports at the grassroots level. Out of all her achievements, I decided to talk to her about rifle shooting, and what came out just blew me away and inspired me to a whole new level. If you also need that inspiration and leadership perspective, then watch this episode till the very end. On that note, let's get started. Hey Priyal, what's up? Welcome to the Mike and Shots podcast.
Thanks a lot, Divyansh, for inviting me. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have over the next 30-45 minutes.
100%, 100%. Priyal, I'm excited because this is going to be a little different sort of a conversation. We'll dive deep into one topic and not just cover the, breadth of it. So we'll be talking about rifle shooting. But before we do that, Priyal, before we do that, I'll just give the listeners, the audience, a glimpse of what you have done like till now. So that, they have a perspective, right? So Priyal, you are currently pursuing your MBA from London Business School, right? You were a consultant at Deloitte before that, right? You've been a part of the Indian rifle shooting team as well for more than 13 years. Like that's what I read on LinkedIn. So you can shed more light on that later. You've been a TEDx speaker 5 times. I saw a lot of videos of yours and they were lovely and very insightful as well. So that was lovely. You're a McKinsey Next Gen Women leader. So that's really amazing to know. Apart from that, you are a founder of the Play and Shine Foundation and also the UN Women 30 for 2030. So lots of things, Priyal, and I would like to, hand it over to you to take this introduction forward because I would love to know a little bit more about all this and then we'll talk about rifle shooting.
Thanks a lot, Divyansh. And you have very clearly, exhaustively gone through whatever my profile is currently on LinkedIn because you've actually managed to capture all the highlights that I've had in my career trajectory till now. So just continuing on what you said, yes, I've had a very unconventional career trajectory. So started off in sports, used to play rifle shooting for India. So in total, I have done rifle shooting for 13 years, but I represented India for 7 years. Probably the most beautiful 7 years of my life, which is why I'm always excited to talk about shooting because shooting really gave me an opportunity to develop personally, professionally, gave me exposure of traveling to different countries, participating in different competitions. And I think the kind of growth curve I had while I was with the Indian team is simply unmatched with anything else I have learned till now in any other pursuit of my life. So absolutely loved my time while I was with the Indian team. Towards the end of my stint with them, I also started pursuing the chartered accountancy course. In fact, that was one of the reasons why when I was midway through my CA and I had to start with my articleship, I decided to put international shooting on the back burner for the next 3 years to focus on my articleship and finish my CA final. And then once I was done with my CA final, I pivoted to working in consulting with Deloitte by the side. Also started with my own nonprofit venture because wanted to give back to the sports community that's given me so much. And that's how Play and Shine started at the intersection of sport and sustainability. I was involved in the social impact space in some capacity or the other as a volunteer always, but starting something of my own was a completely new experience and a different ball game altogether. So it's been 4 years now, but our team's really grown. The kind of work we've done is really expanded and got a chance to speak about it at TEDx, got a chance to extend the work I do with respect to women in sport with the UN as well. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey till now.
Amazing to know. So you said it's been 4 years for the Play and Shine Foundation, right? And along with that, you also did some kind of rifle shooting then as well? Like you were continuing with your rifle shooting then or did you like leave it, or have you left rifle shooting, as in have you left
No,
it?
no, no, no. So I still play at a state and a national level, but
Wow,
I do not like shoot as frequently as I used to, because
got
when
it.
you're playing for India, you're shooting matches all year, you're traveling across the world playing competitions. So of course, that's something I, as much as I want to commit to at this stage, because I have other things that I also want to look at from a career perspective, I've not been doing that. But I do play the national championships that happen. So played the one that happened like I think in early 2020, and then after that also played one or two matches. And right now I'm in London and my rifles are back home in India.
Yeah.
So planning to get them here and again start with training. Probably will do that sometime around Feb March. So definitely haven't
Hmm.
left the sport. Don't plan to anytime soon, because that's the beauty of the sport. It doesn't
Yeah.
come with a retirement age where by 30 or 35 we're expected to retire. We have Olympic medalist even at the age of 70, 72. So there's
Wow.
always a
Yeah.
going back. And now that the sport is in my blood, I know it's here to stay.
100%, and Priyal, when I read about your achievements in rifle shooting space, I was like blown away, like totally blown away. So can you just shed some light on your achievements as well? Because listeners would love to know more about those things, and then we can talk a little bit in depth about the game as well.
Sure. So with shooting, like I said, I played for India for 7 years. Played a lot of state and national level competitions also, and that's where I won close to 117 medals. Have broken three national records, and I started off like when I was in the eighth grade. So initially, it was about establishing myself at the school level, then moving on to representing the state, and then representing the country. And in 2015, I also won the Shiv Chhatrapati Award, which is the highest honor for sport in the state of Maharashtra. So that was
Wow.
one of the milestone achievements for me in shooting, because it's a very rigorous selection process. You basically your last 5 consecutive years of performance in the sport is judged, and there is a
Okay.
certain point system ranking. There's a lot of heavy fancy criteria that goes into play, and then finally, two people get the award. So I was luckily one of those two in 2015, and getting a title that you can be associated with for life, and a lot of other perks was something that I absolutely loved. So these have been some of my highlights of my shooting journey till now.
Amazing, yeah. I think you've broken three national records, and that's something which is hard. I don't hear this every day that you break national records, and must be feeling great about it. And when that happened, like those when you broke those three national records, it must have felt like
Mhm.
ecstatic and all that, right? So we'll talk about that as well. We'll deep dive into that. But tell me, you are a Mumbaiker, like for a long
Mm.
time. You've been in Mumbai, and your childhood was there in Bombay? Like you started from there? How was it?
Yeah, I was born and brought up in Mumbai. In fact, when somebody asked me what's your native place, I like originally hail from Mumbai. So like as long as you can trace my ancestors, we've all been based around Mumbai. So in the summer when generally people visit their native or go visit their relatives or grandparents staying in the village, I'm still in Mumbai. So I've been that a hardcore Mumbai girl.
Awesome. So you started your rifle shooting journey. You said in class 8th. So that was in
Yeah.
Bombay. How was it? How did it start? Like, what was the journey?
So I did my schooling at Bombay Scottish School, and they luckily had a shooting club. Like they were associated to the Swatantra Veer Savarkar Rifle Club, which is like just 5 minutes away from school. And we just got a notice one random day that the shooting club is hosting an orientation come welcome
Hmm.
session at the venue. And I used to stay 5 minutes away from school, and it was just a triangle where school was at 5 minutes and the shooting range was at 5 minutes. So I was like, why not? This is like right next to home. So let me go check this out. So there was no grand plan of representing India at this stage or winning these many medals. It was just a plain curiosity that I want to learn how to use a gun, and I'm going to that's how I'm going to spend my Saturday morning. And I literally told this to my mom on a Monday or Tuesday, and then I completely forgot about it. And the next thing I know is on Saturday morning, my mom's waking me up and she's like, don't you want to go to the shooting range? And I was already contemplating my decision, but then I was like, okay, fine, let's just do it. So it was very random. But yeah, when I did the sport, and I think it was just 1 month into the sport, maybe I already knew that, this is something I really love. You get that inner voice telling you that it's your true calling. And that largely happened to me because before shooting happened, I was associated with a lot of different sports. So I had tried chess, basketball, throwball, and a lot of other extracurriculars also like singing and dancing. So because I had tried a lot of different things, and then when shooting happened to me, it kind of helped me gauge the difference, that how much more drawn I am towards this aspect of my life than anything else. And that actually helped me take the decision much more easier, that okay, I want to do this at a more serious level, because this is something that really drives me from inside.
Very interesting to know, because you take up sports because of quite a few reasons, and one of them is that your family members have been sportsmen or sportswomen, like probably your father, mother, or somebody in your family. Was it the case with you as well? Like, was there somebody in your family into sports earlier?
No, actually, it's quite the opposite. So nobody
Oh,
in my
wow.
family has ever done professional sports. So when I first told them that, I want to do this more seriously and just go beyond representing the school, as much as it was a learning process for me, it was a learning process for my parents also.
Okay.
And as a family, we were, trying to understand how the sporting world works,
Yeah.
how to, really establish yourself in this arena, how does coaching work. That's when we actually came across a lot of aspects, like what a sports psychologist is, what a sports nutritionist is. So
Okay.
it was a learning curve for the family as well, not just me. And that is one thing that really amazes me, because it's something for me when I'm training, I'm learning, I'm figuring things out, and then it's something for them that they are doing the same thing, and at the same time they are being like my strongest support system. Because at the age, like I told you, I started shooting in the 8th grade. At that age, typically in India, you're expected to just leave everything aside, focus on your 10th and 12th, the most
Totally.
critical career years of your life. So my parents got a lot of criticism from extended
Okay.
relatives, from the parents of my other friends, who were like, why are you putting her into sport at this stage? She's so academically smart. You're going to ruin her career, and you should like pull her out of sport. And they had opinions from everywhere. And in spite of this, holding ground and be like, okay, fine, if you want to do it, do it. You have our support, and we'll figure this out as a family. So now when I look back and I actually see how pivotal their support was at that stage, I just wonder from where they managed to, get all that encouragement and, extend it to me.
In fact, that's the most important point you've put across, because even today, like parents, after like say 9th grade, 10th grade, they say leave that sport or whatever you extracurricular you're doing and just focus on studies. Like, so I just wanted to shed more light on this aspect. Like, your parents were so open about it from the very beginning. Why was that? Like, why do you feel was that the case with your parents? Why is it? What do you think?
So to be very honest, between both my parents, it's always my mom who is the main driving force, and she's the one who has to do a little bit of nudging and convincing to my dad, and then ultimately dad just hops on board. So it's always mom who has this crazy passion that, oh my God, you want to do this, you have got this idea, you can do it. And I think largely most of it comes from the fact that me and my mom, because we spend so much of time together, and my dad's job commitments were such that he was always traveling, so it was just the two of us. We understood each other so well in and out that she knew that when I really want to do something, how much I can like put my heart and soul into it, how much I'm ready to work hard, give the sacrifices, and make something happen. So even when shooting happened and I just told her that I really want to win that medal. I really want to play for India. She knew that, I would go the extra mile. I would put in the efforts that's required. And she's like, when you are ready to, give it your all, why not give it a shot? So there were days, in fact, where, after taking certain decisions, I used to look back and feel like, will I make it? Will it be possible? But at that time, she was the one who continued to show belief and confidence in me. And I knew that when she can bet on me, I can bet on myself. So there have been so many phases in those 7 years also with the Indian team where, I have not trusted myself, or I've had doubts on my capabilities, but it's just been her standing behind me that's been the only driving force at that point.
Superb. Yeah, I think kudos to your mom as well, like to support you throughout. And naturally there's a question in my mind, and even people who are listening, to the fact that since you're so good at sports, even today, like you've continued and you were good at academics as well, because you're part of so many consulting. So you were part of Deloitte as well, and McKinsey Women Leader as well. So you've been good at academics as well, right? So was there ever a trade-off between sports and academics when you started or during your journey? And how did you handle it?
So I'll be very honest over here. There will always be a trade-off, and it comes because of the plain understanding that you cannot have two very different goals at your number one. So you have to prioritize, you have to pick. and I'm not saying that this is set in stone. There were days or there were phases when academics was number one for me. Then there were phases where sports was number one for me. But at that point, whatever is number one and number two, on basis of that, you have to prioritize. You have to take certain tough decisions, and there will be some things that you have to let go. For example, like during my 7 years with the Indian team, there was a phase where I had to give my 10th exams. There was a phase where I had to give my 12th exams, my graduation, and then the intermediate level of my chartered accountancy exam. So I remember that at these four milestones, it was impossible to like focus and like put anything else at the number one spot other than my academics. So I remember 6 months before my 10th or 6 months before my 12th, I was like, I'm going to keep academics as the core focus of everything. And then whatever I can do over and above that will just like fit into the schedule. So I remember I was like focusing on my 12th studies. I gave my graduation, and right after my graduation, I gave like my CA intermediate exam. So 6 months before that, I had like totally taken a break from the sport. I was still in touch with it during 10, 12, but in those 6 months, I was like, okay, I'm hitting the pause button and I really need to get this right. Whereas, as far as shooting is concerned, there were phases where I had qualified for World University or World Championship. And these are like big matches. Like World Championship happens once in 4 years. So it was a very crucial match. So a few months before that match, I had put academics on the absolute back burner. So depending on what is important to you, then you have to take tough decisions. There have been many exams where I could have done way better, but I have goofed up because in the longer scheme of things, the grades didn't matter. Whereas there have been a lot of competitions, which as much as I wanted to play, I just had to let go and not play, and just sit in the corner and watch my competitors make a podium finish and take away the medal. So there have been a lot of days, and I think that's something you have to live with when you're trying to balance conflicting passions for academics and sports.
Interesting. And naturally from that, the question arises about time management. Like you learn time management from a very early age, and just shed some light about on time management. Like what did you learn about time management then, and how was it helping you today as well? Like,
so I think one of the most critical aspects I have learned is wherever you are, be there 100%. So initially it used to, I used to have this very bad habit of, if I'm on the shooting range, though I'm like physically shooting, I'm like, oh my God, I have homework when I get home. I have that assignment, that exam's coming around the corner. And, I'm sitting and worrying about it because I'm like, oh, I'm training right now. That means I'm missing on to time of academics and doing other things. And then whereas when I'm studying, I'm like, shit, just 15 days to go for this match and I should be on top of my training. And then it's like you're just worrying unnecessarily and it's not doing any good to you. So I think within the first year of shooting, one thing I realized is wherever you are, be the 100%. So if I step foot on the shooting range, for the next 3 hours, I was like, I'm going to behave like nothing else matters at this point or exists in my life. And I'm just going to focus on how can I best prepare for the upcoming match, or how can I make this training session like the most productive session of the week or of the month or something of that sort. Whereas when I went home and I opened my books, I was like, everything else can wait. My focus is just going to be like, how can I be productive and get the maximum amount of syllabus or topics done in the next few hours. So just being very focused on whatever is there in hand at that point of time, taking things as they come, going with the flow. I think that's really helped me. And because shooting is such a highly mental sport, and it's very different from any of the field games like football and basketball. It's more about just concentration, focus, and a high amount of discipline just automatically not only comes into the sport, but just seeps into the other aspects of your life. So because shooting is a 90% mental game, controlling your thoughts, compartmentalizing your thoughts, how to ward off distractions, all these things are something you just learn on the game, and then they just spill off on the other aspects of your life. So a high amount of discipline came into me, or was just became a part and parcel of my life because of shooting. And that also in a way really helped me in a great way in doing the entire time management aspect.
Superb, yeah, because I was listening to Abhinav Bindra's biopic and stuff on YouTube, and I could relate to the same stuff which you said that compartmentalize stuff within your mind, and shooting is a game of focus, and he learned a lot of focus because of that, and he used to focus on things which he was working on at that point of time and never worrying about it. So I think I could relate to the mentality of a shooter over here. And from that, let's just get into the rifle shooting game. Rifle shooting in general as well, like from your perspective. So I want to learn a little bit more about the game itself. Like, what is the rifle shooting game? And, just shed some light on that before we, go deeper.
So shooting is actually one big sport, and that within it has three big categories. That is, there's rifle, there's pistol, and then there's something called shotgun, which is, the more popular sport that generally
Okay.
people associate shooting with, where, you take a hit at clay pigeons. So that is
Okay.
basically shotgun. So within the other two pillars, that is rifle and pistol, rifle shooting is what I did. So pistol
Okay.
shooting, like the name suggests, basically your weapon is a pistol. You have three distant ranges, that is 10 meter, 25 meter, and 50 meter. And each of these three disciplines have different subcategories and sub events within them. So that's like the shotgun, then there's pistol, and then coming to rifle shooting that I did. Rifle shooting, again, as the name suggests, you do it using a rifle. There are two bores that are most commonly used, that is 0.177 and 0.22, if you are doing the 10-meter event and the 50-meter event respectively. So my pet event was the 50-meter event.
Okay.
That means I had both a 0.22 and a 0.177 air rifle, but I used more of the 0.22 rifle.
Okay.
Within 50 meters, there are again sub events. So there is something known as the 50-meter three position event, where you have 3.5 hours and you shoot a competition in three different positions. So you start with kneeling, then you go on to prone, which is lying down and sleeping, and then there's standing. And then again, there is a 50-meter prone position where you're simply lying down and shooting the entire match for 1.5 hours, whatever is the duration for 60 shots.
Okay.
So these are
Okay.
basically the sub events within shooting. And if you talk about the air rifle event that happens at 10-meter distance, it's just standing and shooting. So you have like close to 75 minutes for 60 shots. So these are the multiple disciplines that come under the huge umbrella of shooting. And I was personally very skewed towards 50 meters because found it very challenging. It happens in an open range format. So it's not just you, the game, and your rifle, but a lot of other factors that come into play have to take into account the wind velocity, the sunlight intensity, if it's raining. So I just found it very challenging. And every match, there is so much that can, variate, that you have to really, hold yourself together and be like, okay, I know what's going on and I got control over this. So I really loved that challenging aspect of it. And that's why I was more drawn towards it.
Got it. So tell me one thing, Priyal. You might have trained a lot of hours to reach like that level of performance. So, in generally, how long does it take to train to become, say, a state level athlete or whatever, like per day or per week or per month? It definitely requires a lot of dedication from your end as well. Like, how is the training?
So it really, really depends. When I used to be attending training camps at Delhi that happen all year round and, are mostly concentrated right before a major domestic or international competition, it used to be like literally training all day because you start your day like at 6:37 in the morning, you have like a physical workout or training session, then you just grab a quick bite and you're at the shooting range by 9:15. Then you're training until lunch. Then you take like a 1.5 hour lunch break. Again, come back at 2:30, and again you're training till 6-7 in the evening. After that, you might have like a mental training session, or maybe a session with your physiotherapist or psychologist, or maybe nutritionist, or you just do your gym workout, do your diary writing, have some post training discussions with your coach, and you basically call it a day by 8-9 p.m. So it's literally like a jam packed 12 to 16 hour schedule that you follow, where it used to be a very funny thing where we used to literally just go back to our rooms to sleep at the end of the day, and there was no time, left to do anything else. So that's how my schedule used to be when I was training with the Indian team. But back home, if I'm in Mumbai, trying to manage things at college and don't have any other major competitions coming up, then that time I used to try and follow a relatively lighter schedule to accommodate other things within my day. So I used to train 5 times a week instead of every day. And those 5 times used to be, if I'm doing the 10-meter event, it used to be like 2 to 3 hours. And if I'm doing the 50-meter event, it used to be 4 to 5 hours. So I used to divide those 5 days in between the two events, maybe 2 days 10 meters and 2 days 50 meters, and then like 2 hours and 5 hours, and just, try and balance it with the other things. So that's more or less, the time commitment that's required as a shooter.
Training for such long hours takes a lot from you mentally and physically as well, right? And, as you train and become better, how does it feel to compete at the national level, say, or the state level or the international level? How does it feel at that point of time? And what is the mentality of the sportsman then?
So Very honestly, it's a feeling I cannot express. Now, when I look back, I really wonder from where, that entire extra passion or motivation to even start off in the first place came to me because, like I said, I did the 50-meter event, which happens in the open, and we have like a shooting range at Burley, which is like an open range, but it's right next to the sea. So you have to deal with the extreme heat, extreme humidity. And when you're shooting, we're wearing like a 5 kg armor or a kit which is made up of canvas. So you are literally sweating inside to an extent that it drenches you from head to foot. Plus the scorching heat because Mumbai is like a very hot place to be in and the high temperatures. So you'll find 1,000 reasons why you just want to like remove your kit and not do this. And at times you just have 2 or 3 reasons where you're like, you know what, come what may, I'm going to like hold ground, I'm going to do my training. And I used to like train in those conditions for 5 to 6 hours. And, at a later stage, it's much easier to do it because you have a more mature perspective or approach towards things. You understand what is important. After you've had a few achievements in your kitty, there is some incentive also for you that, no, I mean, I want to do it. But at a stage where you're just starting off, where there is nothing at stake, where you haven't even established yourself in the sport. So there is very little motivation to actually put yourself through that entire process. Plus, given the age, I was just 13 or 14 years. So now that I had all the maturity or the life experiences that would help me take informed decisions, I really wonder what was that one thing that really was like, no, Priyal, even if it's the weekend, get up early, go to the shooting range, wear that heavy 5 kg armor and stand in the scorching heat all day and train. So I really like some days want to go back and thank my 15-year-old self for taking some tough decisions for my life because that's played like a very pivotal role in making me who I am today.
Right. So, and when did you start like getting to that state level scene? Is it from class 8 you gradually went there, like in a couple of years or something like that? Or did it take more
No,
time?
so state level immediately happened because
Okay.
what happens for state level is you basically play a few, like 1 or 2 city level matches or district level matches. So I remember I started at an inter-school level. So first I represented my school. Then from there on, I was selected to represent Mumbai. And then immediately, like the next stage was from Mumbai representing Maharashtra. So it's like a very steep progression that just happens in a matter of 3 to 9 months if you like make it across all levels. Like you win a medal at school level, city level, you win a medal at city level, you go to the zonal level, you win a medal at zonal level, you go to the state level. So within 6 months, I think I had shot my first state championship because I won a medal at each level. So it was just like climbing up the ladder one after another without no time to figure out, where this is actually going. So I started off shooting at the age of 13 and I made my first international debut at the age of 15. So this was like within a time span of 18 to 19 months. So like literally I said, like I started the sport, was crazy about it, and then I looked back in 18 months and I had the tricolor on my shoulder. So there was very little time to even process what's going on. And before I even realized it, how like the sport had deeply grown on me, and I was like, okay, now there's no looking back.
Awesome. Awesome. And Priyal, tell me one more thing. So, talk about the game day. Like, did you feel nervous during the game days and the finals? What is the environment like? And just shed more light on that. I would love to know more about that.
Of course, I mean, match anxiety is something all sports persons have to deal with. It's very less talked about aspect because number one, it's a very sensitive issue, and number two, not everybody is really comfortable about talking about what goes on in their mind before or after the match. But it happens to everyone, and it's not a bad thing at all. When I started off the sport, I looked at it very negatively. That why do I get so worked up before the match? Or why am I so anxious? Or why am I getting so jittery? But at that point of time, like one of my mentors, and he's someone whose advice I still follow largely in a lot of aspects of my life. His name is like Mr. Baum. He's no more with us, but he had told me that having that kind of expectations or anxiety or just being jittery about something, like look at it positively because it just signals that how much this thing matters to you, how much you want it badly, and it's a way of telling yourself that what, you have worked hard, which is why you're expecting this. So credit yourself for those things, that okay, you've come a long way, you've given it your all. Now whatever happens, you have to work around, figure out how you are going to keep yourself calm on game day. And everybody has their own ways of doing it. Like I love listening to music. A few of my friends love reading books. Sometimes you just want to like talk to your mentor or coach, but it's very normal to have match pressure, and the day you start looking at it as a positive rather than a negative, that at least for me was the biggest game changer of like through all my other sport experiences.
So I've heard one more thing which Abhinav Bindra was talking about, that whenever you're shooting, say a rifle event or a pistol event, the precision is so high. Like when you have to shoot, right, that you have to shoot between a heartbeat at times. Like even if you miss an it's like difference between a gold, a bronze, or nothing at all, right? So was it the same for you as well? Like you have to be so calm during the game that you can't just be nervous or moving even a muscle of yours, right? So
Yeah, that
you
is
learned all that.
literally the case.
Yeah.
So you have to control your heartbeat, you have to control your pulse, as we say it. So all these factors are very directly affected by what you think, how you let your emotions overpower you, how maybe one bad shot impacts your thought process, and just getting anxious or worried about it will just trigger a faster heartbeat, like fasten your pulse, and then the next thing you know is that just transfers on to your stability because you're just trying to be stable, calm yourself down, narrow down the movement of the rifle, and just execute the trigger at the wrong time. So it's literally like a pack of cards that comes falling down, even if one aspect doesn't fall straight. So, like you said, what Abhinav Indra said, that was like spot on. You have to pay attention to the detail, the very little things that go into the game, and just make sure that at all times you are maintaining a fine balance. And at any time, if this balance is really disturbed, like the most best advice we get is just take a break, step back for a minute or two, and then go in with a fresh mind. So that is so when you're playing at a very highly competitive level in a 60 shot match, maximum three bad shots, and that can really like end your day or end your match for you.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you're not taking any risks at all, and you are at the top of your precision or your perfection game like all throughout the match.
And you are majorly competing against yourself because you are nervous, so have to control yourself at all stages. And I heard that if meditation was a sport, it would be rifle shooting, and that was such a crazy thing to hear and understand, that it requires sort of mental patience when you are there in the game. So tell me one more thing, Priyal. You've been in finals of a lot of these games. So what is the pressure like? You just talked about that there's definitely pressure, but in finals it's a different sort of a ball game. Like training is
Mm-hmm.
different, then game is different, then finals are different. So what is the environment of a final in say any rifle shooting event? Probably that can be the broader perspective for a sports event as well.
Yeah, so we used to have like trainings for the matches, and then when we used to have trainings for the finals where there's a lot of stress training where intentionally you're put in tough situations just to train or condition to how you would behave if such a similar situation actually came up during your finals. Plus, what happens is during the matches, there are like 60, 70 of us at one time on the firing line, standing on at our respective bays and shooting the match. So the kind of attention you get is like very divided. Whereas when you go into the finals, it's just eight of you and this huge audience that's rooting on or cheering on for you. And secondly, very recently, not recently, like a few years back, they changed the format for the final competitions where the spectators are allowed to hoot, cheer, you can play music. So there are so many factors that can distract you. Plus, you get like a real-time scoreboard after every shot. You come to know your ranking, and it's not that everybody shoots the final start to end. After we reach like a half point mark in the final, the elimination start where if the top eight people are playing the finals, the person ranked eighth gets eliminated and the person ranked seven gets eliminated. So it's
Oh.
like every round that you go into, like one person is like losing out. So that pressure starts building onto you, and then the entire presence of the audience at times can be overwhelming. So like shooting in the final is a completely different ball game. And we even have that kind of saying where some person is not really made to shoot the actual match, but totally pulls it off or nails it in the final because they enjoy that kind of pressure that comes in from the audience or the other aspects that really drives them or brings out the best in them. So for me, it was quite the opposite, where I did much better on the individual matches where I could just be myself and give it my best, versus going into the finals with all these other aspects like literally like hounding me. It took me a time to find my way of, how I would deal with these things and still deliver my best on the match. So yeah, the final is very different from the actual match.
And from that, do you recall any incident or anything during the finals where you felt like nervous, probably, or very intimidated because of the, other players, some sort of rivalry you had with anybody in any state level? Do you recall anything like that? And, which is kind of become a story in your own life as well. Is there anything from that?
So there isn't any specific story with respect to rivalry because it's such a tight-knit
Yeah.
community, and especially because we were with the Indian team, which has like the top 10, 15 players according to the rankings training together. And then it used to just turn out that most of the time it's the same players who are qualifying for every final competition in the domestic matches. So even before you went into the final, it's like everybody knows everybody, and there's like this huge, sense of community or belonging, whatever you call it. So that cutthroat competition or rivalry never came in. There was a lot of healthy competition where you were like, last time you really outdid me by such a huge score, so this time I'm
Yeah.
going to try to match up to that. So it was a very healthy competition. But I do remember at one time during the finals, I had like an equipment breakdown because
Okay.
I had just flown in the previous day from another city, and probably the way the rifle was handled by the airlines or at some point during the travel, there was like an internal breakage that did not come to my notice through the breadth of the match. And much later on in the closing stages of the final, um, something happened and I could literally see like one of the screws fall off, and I just looked at it and I'm like, okay, how
Whoa.
am I going to like finish the rest of the match without this? So
Yeah.
in the middle of the
It's
final, I had to
crazy.
literally come out, do a quick fix, go in, and then continue. So yeah, I've had like these
Yeah.
breakdown moments where the pressures is suddenly gone from 0 to 100, and I'm like, now what do I do?
And I was watching, I keep going back to Abhinav Bindra because that's the only documentary series I watched on shooting. So during one of the Athens Olympics, he was there in the finals. He was pretty young then, 2000, year 2000, and he went
2000.
into the
Wow.
finals. Yeah, and anybody can win in finals. It's like that. Like 7, 8
Mm-hmm.
folks are there, as you mentioned, and anybody can win. It's anybody's game. And during that time, he fired the worst shots of his life. Like. And when he lost and he went back home and did the analysis, they found that the flooring, the tile of that arena was moving, like it was shaky, and probably
Mm-hmm.
that's why he lost. And he was like, you can't control that. You can't control certain things in the final. So that happened with him, and then he won the Beijing Olympics and all that, right? So that was interesting. One more thing, since you've been in international events and national championships as well, did you ever dream of becoming an Olympian as well, like competing in the Olympics for you?
Of course. So I think once I started playing for India, I got a chance to interact with other Olympians, and you get to hear so many amazing stories about their experiences of training and competing at the Olympics. And now that I have finally entered the sporting world, started following the Olympics. So 2008 Olympics was the first Olympics that I actually watched like end to end on
Yeah,
television. Um, I did miss watching Abhinav Bindra's finals
yeah.
live because I remember I was in the ninth grade then and had like an exam at school. And by the time I came out of the exam hall, I realized that, India had won its maiden individual gold medal at the
Yeah.
Olympics. So it was pretty crazy. But once I really started following it, that was my biggest dream that, someday just wear the tricolor for India at the Olympics. So it's, I would say that hasn't been fulfilled yet, but there's still a fair chance. Maybe I'll want to like give it an all shot again, maybe some point in my future after the MBA.
Wow. So I think I'm not sure. So what is the age range where till time you can actually go there? Like, what is there a limit to it, or you can participate any time, like in the Olympics?
No, that's actually the beauty of the sport. We've
Oh,
had Olympic medalists even at the age of 72, and then we've had medalists at the age of 18.
wow.
So there is no retirement age, and it's not like other sports where, after a certain age, you cannot peak in your performance
Hmm.
because it's a highly meditative come mental sport where a lot depends on, how you control your mental thoughts and other aspects rather than, just pure focus on your physical abilities. That is what makes it possible for people even at a much later stage in their lives to still excel at the sport.
Wow, Priyal, that was really fascinating to learn about rifle shooting. And let's just go beyond the game now. Let's see. Let's talk about things which you learned through, rifle shooting. So, 3 life lessons from rifle shooting which you are currently implementing in your life. Like, what are those?
Very interesting question. So I think one I already stressed upon that, wherever you are, give it your 100% because there's no point doing two things half-heartedly. The second aspect probably, which has been the big game changer for me, is pressure is good. So stop looking at pressure negatively rather than, take it as a positive aspect. Look at it as a challenge. So that's a second important thing. And I think thirdly, one thing that I really follow is there is no shortcut to success. So when I talk to a lot of people and I tell them about my achievements in the sport, they're just like, oh my God, you have 117 medals and you're blessed, you're talented and stuff like that. And my plain answer to that is it's none of it. I'm just someone who just like took up the ownership of working super hard and refused to give up. So if I've like tried something 10 times, probably I've succeeded at it 3 or 4 times and failed at it 5 or 6 times. But I've just refused to give up. So I think keeping at it if you really badly want something is very important. And there is no way you can figure out a workaround without, really working hard or putting your heart and soul into something.
And since you are a leader, like at so many levels, did sport teach you something on leadership as well?
Yes, I think in a great way, when I was doing the sport, I did not realize it, but now that I have adorned leadership roles within the work I do in consulting or, within the work I do at my nonprofit, it makes me realize that so many beautiful aspects actually spill in. So, I mean, as a leader, just taking ownership or looking at something and being like, okay, fine, I can do this end to end. Or even, for example, like I was talking, being able to perform under pressure, the ability to be resilient and just bounce back from any team failure or anything of that sort. Or, another important thing that sports persons have is being very adaptive or mastering the art of improvisation, as you call it, because when you're in a match, especially the 50-meter event that I play that has so many other weather factors that come into play, you can never be 100% prepared when you go in for a match because you don't know what wind you're going to expect, what sunlight you have to expect. So you have to take things as they come. You have to improvise. Many times you have to deviate from your standard technique because it's just not working on match day. And I think that is something that really, helps me in when I'm even working on a project at work because I'm always much more ready for, being prepared for the unknown. And I'm just like, okay, fine, whatever it is, I'll take things as they come. And then having that inbuilt confidence that you will figure out how to get this done. And having that confidence or having that kind of attitude, is like really, really important.
Superb. And I wanted to ask you this. Like you might have won a lot of events, but how did you handle the losses during the rifle shooting events?
Yeah, so there have been a lot of failures also around the way, and I think at the beginning it was very tough for me to bounce back from these failures because every time I failed or I did not win, I used to look at myself in with a very negative lens or in bad light that you've let your coach down, you've let your parents down, you've let yourself down. But then at that time, I got a lot of support from them. They were like, we've seen you work hard, but on match day, if things just doesn't work out for you, it doesn't mean you're bad. It's just that someone else did better and you need to work a little hard to get there. So, shifting the entire aspect of looking at it as bad or, questioning your own abilities was number one that helped me. And secondly, as much as it's important to win, I think it's equally important to fail because when you fail and you really hit the ground, you're like flat face down on the ground. And then after that, when you like brush off your shoulders, you pick up yourself and you're like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot again. That entire ability of resilience or learning how to bounce back, once you know that or once you have that kind of ingrained within you, there is no going back and there's nothing in the world that can stop you. So just for me also, like moving over that fear of failure and being like, okay, fine, even if I screw up or I fail, I'll still bounce back. I'll try harder and I'll come back next year and give it a shot again at this match. That was one very important aspect that I learned.
Wow, yeah. So the world will not end even if you lose, like you can come back and win again. So that's a great mentality to have even in corporate world or in the world in general. Like, and since you've been into sports for a long time again, is there any inspiration you have in terms of sports personalities who inspire you in sports? Anybody?
There have been many, and I think one of the biggest game-changing aspects for me was before I did shooting. In general, there were very few female role models I had to look up to because um, it was I wasn't much aware of the sports arena. And then if you look at it from a very Indian aspect, the most commonly talked sports are about, cricket or football.
Yeah.
And within that also we're talking about men's football or men's cricket. So having female role models within sport was something I absolutely did not have. This was like back in 2008 when I just started the sport. And then I step into shooting, and two of the most popular names at that point in the sport, along with like Abhinav Bindra and Gagan Narang, were those of Anjali Bhagwat and Suma Shirur. And
Okay.
to my luck, they both play from the state of Maharashtra. So it
All
was
right.
not just interacting with them at the national training camps, but at a more granular level, running into them at the shooting range in Mumbai, at state and district level competitions, and just observing them that they came from very similar backgrounds as me, had very humble history behind them, did not like start big, but actually just enter the sport with the bare minimum and then establish themselves,
Yeah.
like climbed the ladder up, and now have become like Olympians, Arjuna awardees, and whatnot, like
Crazy.
have a great crazy list of achievements behind them. So for me, having such female role models and looking at a woman with a very different lens, that she can go out there, she can do something as unconventional and shooting, and she
Yeah.
can become the face of the nation, or prove her abilities at a world class or an international stage, really changed a lot of things for me, and that gave me a lot of confidence that why am I not dreaming big enough at this stage.
Hmm. And do you think sports is still an unconventional career choice, or is it becoming mainstream now?
um, I wouldn't say it's very unconventional. Like 10 years back or a decade back when I had started, 15 years to be more precise, of course, it was still looked upon as a
Yeah.
very unconventional like sport. When I told people I did shooting, they would literally raise their eyebrows, or probably most of them wouldn't understand, and they used to think I'm some kind of
Yeah.
cinematographer or someone working in the shooting production department of some big media house. So for them, just associating shooting with a rifle and a woman who's doing it was very different. But now
Hmm.
that has changed over the last 15 years, because we've had a lot of women
Yeah.
making a mark in the sport, and
Yeah.
it's got much more better media coverage now. But
Hmm.
that being said, for a woman to still build a career in sport is still not considered as the best career option. And still their entire thinking is there that do women even have a career in sport? Like, what after you stop competing, what next?
Hmm.
And is there a future to it? So it's still considered like, you like look at other aspects, like
Yeah.
don't have sports as your number one career goal. So
Yeah.
that still persists very largely in India.
And I feel that, I think you have that foundation of yours, which is called Play and Shine. Probably you are trying to address the problem of sports being at the grassroots level, right? Or
Mhm.
sports being a part of the school curriculum, like at a very, integrated level, like totally a part of the school curriculum, which is not there at a lot of stages. So shed some more light on that Play and Shine Foundation, Priyal, because I would love to know more about it.
So I started Play and Shine in 2018, more as a nonprofit initiative where I did not have any great plan. All I wanted to do is, see how I can stay in touch with the sport, give back to the sports community that's given me so much, and also get involved with the entire social impact space, because I'd worked as a volunteer with a lot of child education NGOs, but had always seen that the sports aspect is missing in it. So if we are teaching the kids about math or English
Yeah.
or anything else, why are we not teaching them about sport, which is
Yeah.
so critical to their overall holistic development, especially
Correct.
during the growth years, the key growth
Hmm.
years of their life. So that's how the idea of Play and Shine came to my mind, and I got tremendous support from my co-founder Sarthak also at that stage. And we just set out with no plan, went to a few local schools that were under the umbrella of the BMC, and told them that we can come in and conduct sports sessions. So it just started with conducting sports sessions for children from underprivileged backgrounds, introducing them to the world of sport. And later on, we realized that, more than just teaching them about sport, we would like love to teach them a lot of important life lessons through the interactions we have with them. For example, one thing we realized is a lot of girls didn't look at themselves as someone who could do sport because, it's considered such a boy thing.
Yeah.
They did not even know what are the most popular sports in India, who
Yeah.
are the sports persons that they can look up to. So shifting that entire mindset for them, where they stop looking at sport as just a boy thing and start believing that, if they want, even they can excel at whatever they want to do at life. And at the same time, teaching boys that, everyone's equal, everyone's at par, and you cannot judge someone or have any preconceived notions about someone
Yeah.
purely on basis of what gender they identify themselves with or what background they've had before that. So making them champions of gender equality and also giving them a chance to learn and grow by learning new things. That is what we started working on. And, the gender lens always was into play, always is into play, where, any new project we enter into, we're always thinking about, how can we create a level playing field? And if we're trying to achieve something out of this project, at the end of the day, what overall impact it has with respect to the number of female participants we have, or the number of girls who learn sport at the end of this or are willing to continue at the end of it, because we're just trying to balance this heavily skewed ratio that's there within the sports arena.
So I think what you just mentioned is something very critical. So say in government schools or, even private schools, what is the condition of sports? Like what is happening over there? Is it good? Is it really bad? Or is it not there at all? Like, what is your perspective? What have you seen? Like, what is there?
So I think it really, really depends, but most of the schools at a very local level that are under the umbrella of the local authority or under the government, it just happens, given the limited budget sanctions they have, there's very little they can do to have like a sports setup or like good sports infrastructural facilities that can be put out for the students over there. So mostly they're doing like these easy to do makeshift sports, maybe something like a chess, or if they have a playground, they're just doing something like a kabaddi or a kho there, which is not very equipment heavy. Or if they have an indoor hall, they're just doing something like yoga or gymnastics, which can be done largely freestyle. So though they are trying to, grow the entire sports thing within their academies or within their ecosystems, because of the entire financial issue and also the availability of skilled PT teachers and a lot of other aspects, there are a lot of limitations with respect to the sports you can teach and to what level you can actually make the children competent to, go out and like represent their school, the city, or the state.
Got it. Interesting. And I listened to one of your TEDx talks and you talk about sports sociopreneurship. Like that's your term you used. Let's talk a little bit more about what is that? Like, what are you doing as a sports sociopreneur? Like, this is the work you're doing, and a little bit more. Just explain the term.
So sociopreneur is basically just combining the terms social entrepreneurship into one. And because I have a sports-based venture, that is why I call myself as a sports sociopreneur. And by that, it's largely the work I do through Play and Shine, and even with the UN, I'm working on a few like women in sport initiatives, and have even written out a thought leadership article that should be out probably next month. So there are a lot of these, because I do a lot of work at the intersection of sport and sustainability, and I'm like have this innate passion about social impact and social entrepreneurship. That is why I call myself as a sports sociopreneur. And yeah, I mean, if I have to really talk about the work that I do in detail, it's just about trying to improve the access to sport in areas or to children who otherwise wouldn't have taken up sport or wouldn't have the opportunity. So when people generally ask me, and this is something that I've spoken about in one of my TED Talks, that, playing for India would have been such a fulfilling experience. And for me, it was till the point I actually stepped into the shoes of, the founder of a sports-based nonprofit and actually started teaching children from an underprivileged background about sport, because the kind of fulfillment I got when I saw a child wear a sports shoes for the first time or step on the sports field for the first time, it was unmatched with any other achievement or any other medal I've won till date.
And from whatever I've asked, you have learned so much about mentality of a sportsman, right? Like you have, and even the fact that you're doing this so much work in terms of social entrepreneurship, right, in that area, right? And Priyal, let's end this podcast with a small rapid fire which I have like for you, right? So you have to choose just one answer of the two options. I'll just have a couple of questions, nothing more than probably three. Just frame them right now for you, right? Okay. So the first question is, Rifle shooting or working in the corporate world?
Tough one. Maybe at this stage, working in the corporate world because I really have a lot of short-term goals in mind that I plan to tick off over the next 5, 7 years. But maybe if we have this rapid fire after another 5 years, my answer might not be the same. Let's see.
True, true, true. Okay. Working in a city like Mumbai or city like London?
Mumbai, definitely. I'm a Mumbai girl, love India, and uh, in the long term, that is where I see myself. As much as I would want to travel the world, maybe work out of London or any other city and be a global citizen. If there is somewhere that I really see myself like settling down in the long term, it is Mumbai.
Hmm. And since I read your profile and I had these two big, consulting firms over there in your profile. So McKinsey or Deloitte?
So with McKinsey, I've just done like a woman leadership program. So hands down, the answer is Deloitte because Deloitte is a place where I've like spent close to 2 years, and
Yeah.
the amount I have learned at that firm in 2 years. When I actually even when I was working on a business school applications and I started to actually pen things down, I realized the abundance of opportunities that the firm gave me just beyond the project work I did was amazing. So it's any day Deloitte. Like I'm a very proud Deloitte alum, and I love saying that wherever I go.
Fantastic, Priyal. And on that note, I'll end the episode. It was a lovely conversation. We talked so much about rifle shooting and leadership and, learning stuff from sports. And I had never had such a conversation in my life ever with anybody. So thank you for doing this, Priyal. And it was really, really interesting and fascinating for me.
Thanks a lot, Divyansh, and I'm so glad that we spoke a lot about sport because
Yeah.
though I do a lot of these podcasts or interactions, there are so many questions about career and consulting and chartered accountancy, and very less conversations around sport. And I feel that is exactly what is missing because it
Mhm.
answers a lot of questions for people who are really interested in sport but are trying to figure out how to go about with it, or how to keep up with their passion for sport without it affecting other aspects of their career. So I'm so glad we spoke about this, and thank you once again for inviting me over and making me a part of your podcast.
Thank you, Priyal, for doing such great work. And I think
Mhm.
hope to see you soon when you come to Mumbai, and then we'll do a podcast again.
Hope to see you too.
Okay, Priyal, take care.
All right. Bye bye.